Hey guys, Beverly here, and I wanted to share with you how I survived my first winter in Denver living in the van. Since I'm from North Carolina, I'm not used to this type of weather, so I knew it would be a little bit of a challenge as far as staying warm goes. But one thing I wasn't expecting or counting on was how bad the batteries get zapped whenever it's cold weather. Because, again, being from North Carolina, I'm not exposed to this. So that was really some of my biggest issues. Not that it was a big issue, but it was one of the bigger issues that I had to problem solve. And that's the very reason I lived in Denver this year for the whole winter, because I wanted to be able to see what I needed to survive in the van, because I'm not exposed to this. As a flight attendant, I can base hop, so I do plan on doing some base hopping and going to Phoenix or Vegas for the winter sometime, or maybe even somewhere like LA or Oakland, to more just better weather that would not have it be so cold and suffer in the van. But I also want to explore those areas. But let me show you a few things that I did to help me survive. I'm going to start at the front of the van with my Reflectix on my windshield. So my windshield, of course, is the largest area. Now, I did not put this one in until after the winter had already started. Before I even started living in the van, I made my window coverings, and they all have Reflectix inside of them. There's some in the back as well by those windows. And in this window, they all have Reflectix and material on both sides. But this one, I couldn't find a big one local that I could purchase. Maybe I could do it online. So I actually bought the Reflectix from the Lowe's or Home Depot and duct taped it together, cut it to fit the forward window, and duct taped it. And that has worked perfectly. When it was really cold, I could tell that the cab, there was a lot of cold air coming in here. So that made a big difference. So I did that, and I added these curtains in one day, all in the same day. Now, these are not thermal curtains, but they are blackout curtains. So they are a little thicker than normal. And they just help keep the heat in the living portion of the cab. I can do some things to help seal it a little bit better, but that's been fine for now. So those things helped in the cab. Also, in the cab area, because of the battery draining so bad, and I had to get a jump start, I actually had to change the battery and get a brand new battery. Even though the battery of the van was only about 1.5 years old, I put a brand new battery in there, and between the mat, under the floorboard of the front seat, is where the battery is. I don't know if I can lift it up at all, but right there. See, there's a metal pan, and I put a warming blanket there. It looks kind of like this one. It's just a little 12-volt warming blanket. It's actually meant to be an animal pet bed warmer. It's bigger than this one. This is tiny. I ordered 2 and I used the other one. So adding that mat helped to keep the battery warmer. I was having to troubleshoot several things in the van that were cold weather related that I wasn't even expecting. And that was one that helped. So I keep it plugged into my Jackery, which is down here, there, into the 12-volt section, not into... Basically, if I plugged it into the cigarette lighter, it'd be plugging it into itself to keep itself warm. So I don't want to do that. I'm using my solar power, my Jackery, to help keep the car battery warm. So also, I was having trouble with the van starting. It's a turbo diesel. It's a 2007 Dodge Sprinter turbo diesel. And it doesn't have the plug-in glow plugs. It's got the, just regular glow plugs. So I've had to learn to be patient, which I have none. So I have to turn on the ignition and let it sit for a few seconds until the ticking kind of stops, and give it a few seconds. And that's what heats the glow plugs up. And then it'll start better. Be patient, Beverly. Have to learn. But I also added some of the anti-gunk to the diesel fuel. That has actually helped as well. So those things are things that car related that I was not expecting in the cold weather, that I've had to problem solve, and I've made them better. They're much better now. And of course it's getting warmer now, but hopefully that will help me in the future, even though I do plan on going to different bases. So those were the car related things. The window Reflectix and the curtains are just heating related things. I also added Reflectix to the fans to cover those. I can cover these at some point if I want to with material. I just have not done that because I added them later, but I had some left over. To actually keep warm in the van, my heater I've been using was the Mr. Buddy heater. It uses the little propane tank, and that served me really well. Now I do have a diesel heater. I just haven't installed it yet. The diesel heater actually came in a little bit after the winter had already started, and I didn't really have a good day to install it. So I've just been using my Mr. Buddy. So the diesel heater is sitting in the back, in the trunk, in the garage, and I'll get to it sometime this summer before winter starts again. But I really don't plan on being here that often during the winter. But I may at some point. And I definitely need a heater. So my Mr. Buddy did great. That little container would last me, if I ran my heater all night long, which I only did that maybe 4 times, this would last me maybe 4 to 6 hours if I kept it on low. But I really didn't need it. I would use it to warm up the van whenever I got in from work, and then whenever I'd get up in the morning, maybe while I was having my coffee, I would sit by the fire and have my coffee in the morning. So that was really good to just heat up the space. But while I was sleeping, I would use electric blankets and a fleece blanket, plus the way I dress. So here's a little clip on that I filmed earlier today. So a couple of things that I did to help stay warm in the winter in Denver when it was really cold at night and I was sleeping was wool socks. That was a big one. Helped a lot. Wool leggings helped a lot. I had on an undershirt, like a t-shirt. Also sweatshirts, hoodies. Sometimes I would put on the hood while I was sleeping because it was chilly. And I was trying not to run my heater during the middle of the night. But a couple of the big ones, under my blankets here, I have an electric blanket. Now, I tried a couple of different variations of electric blankets. I did one 12-volt electric blanket. Let me show you that. This is one that you can get that plugs into like the cigarette lighter. It's one of those emergency blankets you can get for your car. So at first I got this one because I thought, well, it's gonna probably take up less energy than a regular electric blanket. And then I had that small issue with my Jackery, so I couldn't plug it in. So I went and bought a backup one, which in case anybody were to stay with me, I'd have an extra. So I got one with a regular thing. It's low, medium, high, regular electric blanket. And it didn't use any more energy unless it was on high. If it was on lower medium, it was the same energy as that 12-volt did. But if it was on high, it used a little bit more, but I still had plenty of power for that. But one of the very biggest things that I did for my bed is this fleece blanket here. I slept on top of. I'm getting ready to do laundry, so I figured I would go ahead and pull this all off. I'm getting ready to de-winterize the van because it's getting warmer outside. So this just regular old fleece blanket sleeping on top of this made a huge difference, because underneath my bed, even though it's insulated, the walls and the floor are still insulated, I'm not heating that space. There's a wall there, so it's still cooler in there, and that cool air kind of radiates up through the bed, and it was cool. Even though I had my electric blankets on and I was warm on top, it took me a little while to figure out how much difference this fleece blanket made. So it's a big deal. So another thing that I was experiencing that was a problem was my Jackery, which is my house battery. So the solar feeds into the Jackery, and then the Jackery I have plugged in all of my appliances. So I have a little dorm fridge. If I use my microwave, I charge my devices. I really don't have a whole lot, and I would never leave anything plugged in or turned on while I was gone. But I'm gone for sometimes 2 weeks at the time. That was kind of part of the car battery stuff as well. It's not like a normal person when you are cranking your car every morning and cranking your car every night. It's got a better chance to stay charged. So that was a little bit of a downfall as well, where the car battery is concerned. But as far as the Jackery goes, with full solar, you know, you don't get as much sun in the winter, so it has less of a chance to recharge. But there's absolutely no reason it shouldn't be charged to 100%. If I come back from a trip, my Jackery should be at 100% because I don't have anything turned on, and it's had at least 3 days to charge. And it only takes a half a day to go from 0 to 100% with full sun. So I realized the cold was zapping my Jackery as well. So what I realized I could do is put it in an insulated bag. So I had this shipped insulated bag, and I would stuff some extra pieces of Reflectix around the Jackery. It still had plenty of room to breathe. Didn't catch anything on fire, knock on wood. And it would be 100% when I'd come back. So the other days when I did not plug it in and it was really cold, I'd come back and the thing was at 48% or something like that with nothing plugged in. So I knew there was something that was not quite right. That was what was not right. The cold weather was zapping my battery power. So those are some things that I have done to help me survive this first winter in Denver. And honestly, it's been great. Most of the nights were about mid-20s. And for that, again, my electric blanket was perfect. If it was even a little bit cooler, I could pull my hoodie on and sleep with my hoodie on if I was a little bit cooler. And then if it went below 20 degrees, I would run my Mr. Buddy for the night. Again, you got to have some good ventilation, so I would make sure one of my vents was cracked. And then I do have a carbon monoxide detector and a smoke detector. I have both of those, and that served me well. I only had to do that maybe 4 or 5 times. That time that it got down to like -14, right before Christmas, I actually slept in the crew room. That was kind of my backup plan. I'm like, well, I can always sleep in the crew room, or I can get a hotel if it's really bad. But I survived my first winter in Denver. So those are some things that helped me. I don't know, maybe it'll help you too. Food for thought. And just let me know if you have any questions or comments. So whatever it is, guys, have a great day. Bye.